This will sound very strange, but the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, and his plane, the Lisa Marie, are a prophecy that is predicting that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash that will be caused due to a bird strike in St. Louis on precisely January 31st, 2023. The date that this video is posted proves that this prediction was made ahead of time, as does this timestamped email and forensic notes PDF. If you are skeptical, please email me and I will forward these to you. It is also predicted that famous actor James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King and the voice of Darth Vader, will die on April 11th, 70 days after it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. At this time, there is zero news regarding James Earl Jones's health. Here is the email and forensic notes PDF document that prove that this prediction was made ahead of time. If you have already watched this introductory information, you can skip ahead to minute 13. After Harris's death, she will be replaced by Michelle Obama, and soon after, Barack Obama will replace Michelle. This is the reason why Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. It is so that Barack Obama can become the president again. It is predicted that Michelle Obama will very soon become the 47th president, and soon after that, Barack Obama will become the 48th president. In the Bible, a goat is symbolism for the Antichrist. In pop culture, GOAT stands for greatest of all time. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash after her plane's engine will suffer a bird strike. As a result, the GOAT Antichrist will come to power. The GOAT of college football coaching died at the age of 61 and was born in 1961. The GOAT Antichrist was born in 1961 and will become the president again and the Antichrist at the age of 61. Coach Mike Leach won 84 games with the Texas Tech Raiders, and this year, when he died at the age of 61, his team had a record of 8-4. The GOAT Antichrist was born on the date 8-4 in 1961. Kamala Harris is the 49th U.S. Vice President. 49 days hints at the 49th Vice President, which is why the 49th Vice President will die 49 days after the GOAT of college football coaching died. Coach Mike Leach was famous for his revolutionary air raid style of offense, and he was also famous for coincidentally coaching the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The name Air Raid hints at a bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane. The Air Raid coach died 96 days after the Queen of England died at the age of 96. As a result of Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash due to a bird strike, Michelle Obama will become the Queen of America. Michelle Obama will return to the White House as a result of the 49th Vice President's death in a plane crash due to a bird strike that will be 49 days after the death of the Air Raid coach, which in turn was 97 days after she returned to the White House for the unveiling of her portrait on the date September 7th, which is 9/7 and hints at 97, because 97 is the 25th prime number, and the 25th Amendment will be used to make her the president, and then the 25th Amendment will be used to make her husband the president again. Michelle Obama will replace the 49th U.S. Vice President and then become the president as a result of the death of the 49th Vice President in a plane crash caused by a bird strike, which will be 49 days after the death of the Air Raid coach. And this was in turn exactly 49 months after her book Becoming was released, because she will become the president. Michelle Obama will become the first female president and the 47th president as a result of Kamala Harris's death in a plane crash that will be 49 days after the death of the GOAT of college football coaching, the air raid coach, which in turn was exactly 47 weeks after the death of Lucia Harris, the queen of basketball, who was the first and only woman to be drafted by the NBA, and Michelle Obama will replace Kamala Harris, the first female vice president, and then become the first female president, the 47th president, and her husband is the basketball president. The death of the GOAT of college football coaching, the air raid coach, which hints at the bird strike of Kamala Harris's airplane, died exactly 1,109 weeks after the air raid on the Twin Towers and the Pentagon on 9/11 in 2001. The number 1109 hints at 110 and 9. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to point to the 110 floors of the Twin Towers that collapsed, and George Washington's walk down Wall Street after his first inauguration at Federal Hall, and into the church that was the only building at Ground Zero to have survived the falling debris, due to the uprooted sycamore tree that sheltered and protected Trinity Church. In God's judgment warning to ancient Israel in the book of the prophet Isaiah 9:11 says that the buildings have collapsed and the sycamore trees have been uprooted. In what today is known as the Miracle Chapel, George Washington consecrated the nation to God, saying that if the nation were to ever turn away from God, it would lose its divine protection and blessings. Wall Street is named after the 9-foot-high wall of security that the Dutch built to keep the British and the Indians out. And in the Bible, Joshua died at the age of 110, and he led the Hebrews around the walls of security before they collapsed in God's judgment. And Joshua and the Hebrews crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar, which hints at the number 110. God pairs the numbers 110 and 9 together to symbolize all of this. And Joshua is a type for Jesus, and Jesus' first coming was officially on the date 110 in the Hebrew calendar. 2 towers that were each 110 stories high is symbolism for Jesus' second coming. That God pairs 9 and 110 together to point to 9/11 is the reason why the iconic Air Force plane in the collapse of Afghanistan on the prophetic 20th anniversary of the collapsed 110-story buildings on 9/11 was number 1109, which hints at 110 and 9. Barack Obama will become the president again as a result of the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which is predicted to be 49 days after the death of the air raid coach, which was exactly 1,109 weeks after the air raid of the planes into the Twin Towers on 9/11. Barack Obama will become the president again as a result of the death of Kamala Harris in a plane crash, which is predicted to be 49 days after the death of the air raid coach, which was exactly 90,011 days after the nation was born on July 4th, 1776. America will lose its independence 90,011 days after it established its independence. 90,011 days hints at the judgment warning for the nation in 2001 on 9/11. It is now believed that Kamala Harris's plane will crash on her return flight from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C., and although it was learned in October that her crash would be in St. Louis, it was discovered in December that a flight from her home in Los Angeles in California across the country back to Washington, D.C., this flight path will cross directly over St. Louis. It was also realized that her plane crash in St. Louis will parallel the book of Isaiah chapter 31, verse 4, and because I used to have a friend that lived in St. Louis, I recalled that the area code for St. Louis is 314. Isaiah 31:4 says that the Lord will come down like a lion and a young lion that is growling over its prey, and like birds hovering. In the movie The Lion King, there is a lion and a young lion, and it is believed that the Lord will bring down Kamala Harris's airplane will come down as it is flying over St. Louis due to turbulence, which will parallel the lion and the young lion growling in Isaiah 31:4. Turbulence will be symbolism for a lion's roar. A lion's roar is air vibrations, as is turbulence. As a result of this lion's roar turbulence, her plane will attempt to make a landing in St. Louis, at which time her plane will be struck by a hovering bird. James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King, is symbolism for the lion's roar. In the Bible, a lion is symbolism for Jesus Christ. It is predicted that James Earl Jones, the voice of the Lion King, will die on April 11th, the calendar date that Jesus was crucified on, and this will be 70 days after it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to turbulence, which is symbolism for a lion's roar, in St. Louis, a city that is connected to by the I-70 highway, and over which passed the path of totality of the Great American Eclipse, which was 70 miles wide. And astronomers calculate eclipses and the path of totality of eclipses using the number pi, which is symbolized by 3.14 and hints at Isaiah chapter 31:4. Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash in the city with the area code 314 after her plane experiences turbulence, which is symbolism for a lion's roar. And 70 days after this, it is predicted that the voice of the Lion King will die, and this will be on her flight across the country, a flight path that goes over St. Louis, and the I-70 highway, which goes from the west coast to the east coast, and the 70-mile-wide path of totality of the Great American Eclipse, which are paths that cross the country, hint at Kamala Harris's flight path across the country. This video is also predicting that there will be a catastrophic asteroid hit on Earth on September 2nd, 2023. This will be a fulfillment of what is described in the book of Revelation in the Bible in chapter 8. It has been known since the autumn of 2020 that she will die in a plane crash. But as can be seen here in this email, it was known since August of 2021. Currently at this time, there is no way of knowing where Kamala Harris plans to be on January 31st. But if her plane crash occurs in St. Louis, then another video on this channel that is titled Prediction Harris's Plane Will Crash in St. Louis will become one of the most important videos on this channel. Once this prediction comes to pass, you should know that you need to watch every minute of every video on this channel, including every Kamala Harris prediction video and James Earl Jones prediction video. There is specific and unique and important messages from God in each of the videos. However, arguably one of the top most important Kamala Harris videos is the 1989 World Series earthquake prophecy video. I have also titled this video Church of Philadelphia Signs. In the description box below, I will leave links to these videos. In the most important video on this channel, which is titled God's Purpose for These Predictions, I will explain the reason for why God has given me a voice through this prediction that is from God. You are making a very grave and serious error if you think you already know how I was able to know this prediction, and more importantly, if you think you already know why I was able to know this prediction. It would be very foolish for you to skip watching this most important video. You will have missed the point of this prediction. One of the purposes for this prediction is to establish that the main conclusions being stated in this video are fact. It is a serious warning for those that disagree with the things being stated in this video, and to not appreciate this is to miss entirely the point of this prediction that is from God, and it is to miss the point of this video and video channel. In the description box below, I will leave a link to the video titled God's Purpose for These Predictions. This video was originally produced in the spring or early 2021. And so the knowledge and wisdom has been exponential since then. And in the upcoming diagram, you will see that the diagram doesn't go past June 8th and April 19th, two dates that were very important in the trail of signs that are leading to the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash, the predicted date on November 3rd, 2022. But nonetheless, this video explains some of the signs you won't hear in any other video. And so that's one reason why this video is worth watching. And also you can get a background to what the thought process was back in early 2021. And so there's a lot of very interesting things in this video nonetheless. And also many other videos explain how April 19th connects in the trail of signs. For example, that date is 3 sets of 90 days to January 14th, which is a date that has been explained in other videos, which leads in the trail of signs to the other dates to November 3rd. All right, as we can see here, we have the April 19th date. As I was just saying, this date connects with 3 sets of 90 days, which pairs with the 2.3 and the 9 days, and actually 9 years back from this date, which isn't in this diagram. Anyway, this is explained in other videos, and I also mentioned this date here. This date connects with 220 days, and that connection is, for example, explained in the James Bond video. And I just want to add that today is January 16th. A few days ago, Lisa Marie Presley died, and her death is also a major sign that is pointing to the plane named after her, the Lisa Marie airplane. And her death is 19 days before it is predicted that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash. The number 19 is symbolism for God's perfect judgment. The number 9 from the Bible symbolizes God's judgment, and the number 10 symbolizes God's perfect order. And so 9 plus 10 equals 19. This is why 19 days. Her death is also pointing to the day it is predicted that James Earl Jones will die, and that will be explained in other videos. I will also make a Lisa Marie video. I haven't even begun to explain the prophetic relevance and signs in the death of Lisa Marie Presley. I just wanted to add that to this video in this edit, since it was just a few days ago that she died. Also, there are other Elvis signs that have come since the production of this video, since early 2021, and this is the background for it. I don't think there is a better explanation in any other video. For example, Elvis's airplane. So that's another reason why this video is worth watching. This is going to be a very interesting video. Elvis Presley and his plane. Let's first begin with describing his plane, the Lisa Marie, which is a famous plane. And it has on its tail a lightning bolt with the initials TCB, which stands for Taking Care of Business. His famous plane, the Lisa Marie, has a lightning bolt on the tail of its plane. And in the Gospel of Luke, Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven. This is exactly what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris falls from the sky in her plane and dies in a plane crash, and then is replaced by the Antichrist in the office of Vice President, before shortly replacing the President, Joe Biden, and becoming the 47th president. And so that's why it's astounding that Elvis Presley's plane has a lightning bolt on its tail. It's part of this sign. It's making it very obvious that this is part of the sign here. And God is using pop culture, and it's no wonder that God is using Elvis Presley in his signs. You'd figure that he would do so, especially given that he is king symbolism, pointing not only to the coming Antichrist king, but also the King of Kings, Lord Jesus Christ. There's so much to say. Okay, so on that note, actually, what you need to also watch is the Lion King prophecy video, which will explain a lot more regarding this king symbolism. Likewise, another must-watch video that will explain this king symbolism in God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is the Field of Dreams prophecy video. Well, the day that Elvis Presley died was August 16th, 1977. And on this day was the last mission for his plane, the Lisa Marie. He sent his plane to pick up his daughter in California, and she arrived in Memphis on the Lisa Marie on the day that he died. His daughter is was 9 years old. Obviously, her name was Lisa Marie. And so this will become relevant in a little bit. The fact that his daughter was 9 years old. From the Bible, the number 9 symbolizes God's judgment. Again, Elvis's plane has a lightning bolt on it, and lightning is Antichrist symbolism. In Bible prophecy, the number 666 is associated with the Antichrist. And exactly 6 years, 6 months, and 6 days after Elvis Presley died, and this last mission of the Lisa Marie to pick up his 9-year-old daughter, Lisa Marie, was Lisa Marie Day on February 22nd, 1984. Graceland Estate had got the plane back to the estate. They had to shut down the roads of Memphis and cut sections off the plane to bring the plane down to the Graceland Estate, where it now resides, for tourists to see. And the mayor of Memphis and I think the governor, I'm not sure, but there was a lot of fanfare and celebration. It was actually a national news story as well, this bringing the plane down the roads of Memphis to Graceland. And the mayor declared that this day would be Lisa Marie Day. I'm assuming that this is an annual thing. Lisa Marie Day is February 22nd, 1984, which again was exactly 6 years, 6 months, 6 days after the last mission for the Lisa Marie, which has a lightning bolt on its tail. Well, Lisa Marie Day was in turn exactly 444 months, a number God uses to reveal the identity of the Antichrist, who is associated with the number 44, to February 22nd, 2021. Before I explain February 22nd, 2021, let me explain the relationship between the number 666 and 444. The number 666 symbolizes the Antichrist in large part because the number 6 symbolizes man. Man was created on the 6th day. And again, in Bible prophecy, the number 666 symbolizes the Antichrist. Likewise does the number 444. In Strong's Concordance, the 444th word in the Greek New Testament, G444, is the word for man. And so the number 666 is associated with the first Antichrist, just as the number 444 is associated with the second Antichrist. There are 2 Antichrists in Bible prophecy. February 22nd was the day that social media and the mainstream media was reporting how Niagara Falls had frozen over and there was this beautiful rainbow over Niagara Falls that tourists were able to see. Niagara Falls freezing over is a rare event, and this rainbow aspect of Niagara Falls is a big reason why God is using Niagara Falls in his signs. Niagara Falls is Noah's flood symbolism. It symbolizes the power of water moving over the earth. And other videos on this channel talk about what will be the big end times judgment sign that will communicate that judgment is beginning now. And I believe this is a major reason for even the existence of Niagara Falls, which is this historic barge that has been stuck on the rocks of Niagara Falls for over 100 years, since the year of World War I and the Spanish flu pandemic. World War I was the beginning of the end times signs. When asked by his disciples for the signs to look for of his return, Jesus replied that you will hear of wars and rumors of wars and kingdom will rising up against kingdom and nation against nation. And all of these are but the birth pains, but the end is not yet. I'm paraphrasing. And so World War I was the beginning of the birth pains. The reason is because World War I was the end of the 500-year Ottoman rule of the Palestine area, which led to the British Mandate and their rule of Palestine, which also led to the Balfour Declaration, which declared that Palestine is a homeland for the Jewish people, which enabled the immigration of Jews back to Palestine and was the beginning of this restoration of Israel in the 20th century, which God is restoring for the Lord Jesus Christ to rule from Jerusalem at the center of the world for the 1,000 years of peace when he returns in the second coming in the autumn of 2024. And so, anyway, that's the reason for the Niagara Barge, and also why Niagara Falls is important, because it's Noah's flood symbolism, and it engenders Niagara Falls engenders a rainbow, which is also Noah's flood symbolism. And also, by the way, the barge symbolizes Noah's Ark, and at the time that it got stuck, 2 men were trapped on the barge, which then was the most dramatic rescue in the history of Niagara Falls, when the 2 men were rescued by a lifeline that was shot from the banks of the river by the U.S. Coast Guard, and this gave this national judgment symbolism. So anyway, the rainbow and the Niagara Falls frozen over was 444 months exactly after Lisa Marie Day. The Lisa Marie now resides at Graceland. Graceland is very symbolic here, and the God's sign regarding judgment, the rainbow, is his sign of grace at the end of the flood judgment. And so what God is communicating through this is that Graceland is symbolizing God's grace over the land of America, which is about to end. And America is about to be destroyed. God's grace on America is about to end. And that's why God is pointing to this rainbow, because it symbolizes God's grace regarding judgment. And so that's why this is amazing. We've got Graceland connecting to this rainbow at Niagara Falls with an exact 444 months, which is extremely prophetic. There are many other 440 months connections. We have a second witness to this. Paul Simon's Graceland album became his most successful studio album and highest charting album in over a decade. It is estimated to had sold over 16 million copies worldwide, and it was lauded by critics and won the 1987 Grammy for Album of the Year, and is frequently cited as one of the best albums of all time. And in 2006, it was added to the United States National Recording Registry as, quote, culturally, historically, and aesthetically important, quote. Okay, so the song of the album, arguably, is his song Graceland as well, in which he says that he is traveling with his 9-year-old son. And so this is another connection to the 9-year-old daughter of Elvis Presley, Lisa Marie, who was on the Lisa Marie on the day that he died. In fact, more specifically, she was on her way to Graceland. And in the song, Paul Simon is singing about how he is on his way to Graceland with his 9-year-old son, his traveling companion. The song is literally about him driving down the highway to Graceland. Him driving down the highway with his 9-year-old son to Graceland parallels the day of Elvis's death and his 9-year-old daughter on her way to Graceland on his plane. The release date of Paul Simon's Graceland on August 25th was exactly 1,800 weeks before this Niagara Barge frozen over rainbow sign. 1800 is, 18 is Antichrist symbolism because it is 6 plus 6 plus 6. We've already seen in this trail here a 666 connection with the 6 years, 6 months, and 6 days. The odds of, a number of weeks being on an even 100 number is 1 in 700. So But the odds of it being a meaningful symbolic number are, of course, a lot lower than 1 in 700. And so from Elvis's 9-year-old daughter and the sign here with Paul Simon's 9-year-old son, we have two connections that involve 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 3 sixes, to the day the rainbow was reported over Niagara Falls when it froze over, which is symbolizing Graceland. What's also interesting about this 1800 weeks number is that 18 is a multiple of 9. It is 2 times 9. Okay, so from the day that the Niagara Falls froze over and the rainbow, it is exactly 47 days, which is symbolizing the 47th president, hinting at the 47th president, who will be the Antichrist after Kamala Harris dies in a plane crash. Soon after, the Antichrist will replace Kamala Harris and then become the president soon afterwards by replacing Biden as well. And 47 days after the Niagara Barge sign is the Kingston sign, which is when the residents of Kingston on St. Vincent woke up to a layer of volcanic ash covering their homes and streets. The must-watch The Lion King Prophecy video explains this, so I won't explain it. But it's Kingston, which is king symbolism, and we're talking about Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, right? He's known as the King. That's his nickname, the King. And so that's why this is very important. What is a confirmation of that is that from this same day, the Niagara Barge froze over with the rainbow over it, which connects with the 9-year-old son and the 9-year-old daughter. It is 99 days to the day it was reported that the sign at the entrance of Elvis's birthplace and chapel museum in Tupelo, Mississippi, was stolen. It was a national news story. Someone stole the sign Elvis. Prior to this date, I was expecting a king-related sign, and sure enough, we received one. The date was June 1st, and this connects with 7 days to the day that Kamala Harris will crash in her plane, and the relevance and prophetic importance of that is explained, this connection is explained in the must-watch Field of Dreams prophecy video. The actor James Earl Jones starred in the movie Field of Dreams, and he was also the voice of Mufasa, the king in the movie The Lion King, and he also played King Jafar in the movie Coming to America, and he was also the voice of Darth Vader, which is Antichrist king symbolism. And James Earl Jones was also born in northern Mississippi, close to Memphis, Tennessee, and Graceland. And this stolen Elvis sign, which was king symbolism, was also pointing to James Earl Jones. But that is explained in the must-watch The Lion King prophecy video and Field of Dreams prophecy video. Now, if we go up the diagram here, you can see in the top right, we've got a 9 days and a 9 days and a 9 days connection back to March 14th. Well, the other signs in this trail here, the other signs on April 1st and March 22nd and 23rd are explained in the Lion King prophecy video. But on March 14th, we had these signs which are also explained in detail in the Lion King prophecy video. This isn't really an explanation of it. But what occurred on this date was the Grammy Awards, and speaking of music and Elvis Presley, when Beyonce, known as the Queen of Pop, was nominated for 9 Grammy Awards, and it is publicly known that she is obsessed with the number 4. And also, her 9-year-old daughter won a Grammy Award, and her name is Ivy, which is named after the Roman numeral for the number 4, which sounded out is IV. And so that's why another 9-year-old here, we've got now 3 9-year-olds in this trail here, which is confirming the signs. And that's how God's true big picture of signs, patterns, and connections works. It's what makes it true, besides the fact that when this prediction comes to pass. What makes it true is the second and third and multiple witnesses confirming things. Otherwise, it's just delusional. And this is what is required, as it's said in the Bible, second and third witnesses confirming things. And that's why it's 9 days, 9 days, and 9 days. And speaking of king symbolism, one of those signs was in the King Supermarket shooting in Boulder, Colorado on Nisan 10, the day that the King of the Jews, the King of Kings, officially entered Jerusalem in his triumphal entry. Well, it's also 9 and 4 because it was 9 nominations for Beyonce, who was obsessed with the number 4. It was the 9-year-old daughter who was named after the number 4. And also this day, player number 9 of the New Orleans Saints announced his retirement, which was very prophetic and explained in the Lion King prophecy video. This player number 9 is the NFL's all-time career passing yardage king. He's the quarterback king, which makes this part of this Elvis is the king of rock and roll trail of signs here. And this player is known for having won Super Bowl 44. So we've got 9 and 4s, and 9 times 4 is 36 days, and 9 times 4 days after these signs involving the 9 and number 4 was the day that Kamala Harris visited an electric bus company in High Point, North Carolina, while she was promoting her and Biden's $2.3 trillion infrastructure and jobs package. The $2.3 trillion hints at the number 23, which is a number that God uses to reveal the identity of the Antichrist. And as explained many times in other videos, he pairs the numbers 9 and 23 together also to reveal the identity of the Antichrist. And that makes this a second witness with this 9 days connection we see here from the Kingston volcano ash sign. In Luke 10:18, Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which is exactly what will be symbolized when Kamala Harris falls from the sky and then is replaced with the Antichrist. And the electric bus company symbolizes lightning, and High Point symbolizes heaven, as in Isaiah chapter 14, it is said that Lucifer fell from the high place, which is a metaphor for heaven. And in ancient Israel, the Jews would often go up to the high places on tops of mountains to worship the false gods in their idolatrous false worship. And so this is why Kamala Harris visited High Point and the electric bus company on this date. This 50 days connection here is very profound and amazing, and the details of it are explained in another video, and so I won't explain it again. It's explained in the must-watch, one of the must-watch videos on this channel, the Fabio prophecy video. Fabio's face experienced a bird strike while he was on a roller coaster in 1999, and this was a prophetic sign that was pointing to the day that Kamala Harris will die in a plane crash due to a bird strike. 4 times 4 days symbolizes the number 44, which reveals the identity of the Antichrist. And 4 times 4 days after these signs involving the number 4, including the player that was known for having won Super Bowl 44, 4 times 4 days after this, March 14th date with the signs of the number 4, is the day that in the news, it was a big news, sports news story especially, that the basketball team from the 45th state, the Utah Jazz, had to make an emergency landing after birds struck their plane, which is amazing because that's what God is communicating, that Kamala Harris will crash in her plane due to a bird strike. And the plane was on its way to Memphis, Tennessee, which is where Graceland is. So just amazing. And on this same day, President Trump, God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet his signs, announced his new website, which is named 45office.com. And, well, it's another story. I won't explain it, but the number 45 is, of course, Trump's symbolism. He was the 45th president, and he is symbolizing King Cyrus, speaking of king symbolism, in the 45th chapter of Isaiah, but I won't explain that. Also, in the Joshua account, in the book of Joshua, Joshua led the Hebrews around the walls of security 7 times over 7 days while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets, which is 3 sets of 7 before the sounding of the last trumpet sound with the big, long last trump. And that's another reason why God is using trump here. And so 3 times 7 days, 3 weeks after this Jazz Memphis plane emergency landing due to a bird strike, was the day that Kamala Harris visited an electric bus company in High Point, North Carolina, which is symbolizing the day that she will fall from the sky in her plane and be replaced by the Antichrist, Satan falling like lightning from heaven, while she is investigating the source of the border wall of security crisis when she is visiting Guatemala. The border wall of security is synonymous with Trump's presidency, and it's symbolizing the walls of security that collapsed in judgment on Jericho when Joshua led the Hebrews around the walls 7 times over 7 days while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets, 3 sets of 7. But what confirms this is that jazz is sound. It's music. It's a sound, and horn instruments and trumpets are a big part of jazz music. And the last trump after the 3 sets of 7 in the book of Joshua was a sounding of the trump. And so that's why it's amazing that after Trump trumpeted his new website titled 44office.com, the team, which God uses, by the way, he's used in other signs, by the way, the 45th state team, the basketball team from the 45th state, is that's tying into Trump. If I'm explaining this, I hope you got that. Team, 45th state, 45office.com, jazz sound, trumpeting sound, 3 sets of 7, last trump sound, before judgment and the walls of security collapsing. Well, 3 times 7 days, 3 weeks. Again, the Elvis sign was stolen in northern Mississippi near Memphis, where Elvis was born. And again, earlier I mentioned this stolen Elvis sign was 99 days to the Niagara Frozen sign of rainbow, and that in turn connected to the 9-year-old son and the 9-year-old daughter. And so we have a lot of 9s, which again in the Bible symbolizes judgment. And it is exactly 9 weeks between the jazz Memphis Trump sign to the Elvis stolen sign near Memphis. In fact, I think I forgot to make that clear. This jazz plane was on its way to Memphis. Just like the 9-year-old son and the 9-year-old daughter, they were on their way to Graceland. This plane was essentially on its way to Graceland. It was traveling from Salt Lake City, Utah to Memphis. And Memphis, Tennessee is known for its influential strains of blues, soul, and rock and roll that originated in Memphis. It's also the location of the Blues Hall of Fame. And so that's why it is astounding that in this sign, this team named the Jazz, with this bird strike sign on the airplane, was on its way to Memphis, essentially the home of jazz and blues music. If we look at the top left corner of this diagram, again, Trump is God's trumpet that he uses to trumpet his signs. And so I would have expected that somehow God would have connected Trump and Elvis. If this was really true, that Elvis was as big of a deal as it is, as I'm saying in this diagram so far, then somehow Trump would be involved. And it is amazing because Trump awarded Elvis Presley posthumously a Medal of Honor, and which is like the highest award a civilian can receive, the Medal of Freedom. And this was exactly the day that Trump awarded this Medal of Honor to Elvis Presley in 2018 was the day in the Hebrew calendar 995779. And I was expecting a sign on this day prior to this date because of this, because I had already come to understand that the number 9 symbolizes judgment in God's signs. And even that, 9 days before that, I was expecting a sign, and that was the day of the Paradise Fire. And on the 995779, Trump was in Paradise, California, and it was his 666th day in office. That was the day after he awarded Elvis the award, but the date 995779 in the Hebrew calendar begins at sunset, and so that's how come Trump is involved with 2 days in this sign here. But it was also the day of the 9 UN resolutions against Israel. And it was prophetic too, because this was when Trump said that the Golan Heights, or he went against the resolution for the first time in history, the U.S. did, against the Golan Heights resolution against Israel. So, okay. So we have 9 UN resolutions, 995779. We've got Elvis Presley's 9-year-old daughter, Beyonce's 9-year-old daughter, and Paul Simon's 9-year-old son, all connecting with Graceland, right? 2 of the 3 most important numbers God uses profusely in his end times big picture of signs, patterns, and connections is the number 9 and 110. They both symbolize judgment, and God pairs these numbers together to point to and hint at 9/11. And this has been explained many, many times in other videos, so I won't explain it again here. But we have the 9 resolutions on the date 9/9, and we have 110 weeks connection here connecting to it, which makes this a second witness to each other. They confirm each other, therefore. Okay, well, 110 weeks is one of the 3 most... The number 110 is the age at which Joshua died. I've already explained Joshua and the importance of Joshua in regards to Trump as well. 110 weeks is Joshua's symbolism, but especially so because it is 110 days times 7. And again, Joshua led the Hebrews around the walls of security 7 times over 7 days, while 7 priests blew 7 trumpets. So that's especially prophetic, if you will, 110 weeks. Exactly 110 weeks after Trump awarded Elvis the Medal of Honor was the sign in Nashville, the Christmas morning bombing, okay? Elvis recorded his music in Nashville. His Graceland estate is in Memphis, Tennessee, but he recorded his music in Nashville, Tennessee. And there's a lot of king symbolism involved with Nashville, including Elvis Presley, but also the famous football player King Henry. It's explained more, the importance of Nashville, in the must-watch The Lion King Prophecy video. If you're getting a hint now, by now, you should know that you must watch The Lion King Prophecy video. So anyway, it's amazing because I explain the reason for Nashville. It's at the center of the eclipse, for one thing, and it was the only major U.S. city that was wholly within the path of totality of the Great American Eclipse. And Nashville is being used to point to the sun because the beginning of judgment will really get going on May 23rd with the solar flare storm that will hit Earth. That's a long story, but I explain it more in the Lion King Prophecy video. The sun is 93 million miles away from Earth, which is why from the Christmas morning bombing in Nashville, it is 93 days to this other Nashville sign. But also, it was Flight 93 on 9/11 that killed 44 people, which is hinting at the Antichrist, whose number is 44. And again, it's also pointing to because 9/11 was the judgment warning of the coming judgment, which will begin really with this solar flare from the sun. And that's why on 9/11, it was Flight 93. Okay, and it also crashed in Pennsylvania and turned around in Cleveland, which is a city God uses to point to the Antichrist, which is also explained in the must-watch The Lion King Prophecy video, coincidentally. Oh, and by the way, the eclipse that will pass the next Great American Eclipse in 2024 will cross the path of totality of the eclipse in 2017, exactly where it peaked. But that eclipse will go over the 2 cities of Dallas and Cleveland. God's using Cleveland to point to the Antichrist and Dallas to point to the American Evangelical Church of Laodicea, which God is not happy with at all, and said in the book of Revelation he wants to vomit out of his mouth for it being lukewarm, and calls for it to repent. But that's another story as well. Well, anyway, so we've got Nashville sign to Nashville sign with this 93 days connection here. On Passover, on the date 327 to 328, was the day of the epic flood in Nashville that killed 4 people, and the day of the Satan shoes sign, which is making a reference to Luke 10:18 when Jesus said he saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven, which again is what Kamala's plane will symbolize when she falls from the sky. And again, on Elvis's plane, there's a lightning bolt. Okay? And so that's amazing because it's Nashville. And that's where Elvis recorded his music. And on this date, 328 in 2021, we have a lightning from heaven sign, right? With the Satan shoes, which is also explained in the must-watch The Lion King Prophecy video. Okay, so 47 weeks, which hints at the 47th president back. There was 4 deaths in the Nashville flooding, by the way, and that was the second wettest 2-day period in Nashville's history, the 27th and 28th, which lined up precisely with Passover because the storm, the rain really got going in the evening of the 27th, and Passover began after sunset on the 27th. And it killed 4 people. It was initially reported 4 people. Later, it was reported the next day, not on the day, but on the next day, 6 people died. Both numbers are relevant, as you will see. But 4, because for one thing, and there are other things, but 4 because one thing is because it was the 4th tragedy to befall Nashville in the last year, after the Christmas bombing and the derecho wind storm and the tornado in March of 2020. Well, exactly 47 weeks back, 47th president symbolism, was May 2nd, 2020, and this derecho wind storm, which was a 70 miles per hour wind storm. And derecho is Spanish for straight. It's this extremely rare windstorm event when the winds travel in a straight line. It was deadly. It killed a firefighter. And the 70 miles per hour wind parallels the 7.01 inches of rain that fell over the 2 days in Nashville. And this is pointing to the Nashville being at the center of the eclipse because the path of totality was 70 miles wide. Before I continue, I keep forgetting the 2 wettest days, it was the second wettest 2-day period in Nashville's history, all right? But it was actually hinting at the first wettest 2-day period in Nashville's history, which was May 1st and May 2nd, 2010, and the epic flooding that occurred in Nashville, which, among other things, put the Grand Ole Opry underwater. And that was exactly May 1st and May 2nd, 2010. The number 11 in the Bible symbolizes the execution of judgment, and this was exactly 11 years before May 1st and May 2nd, 2021, which will be the symbolic beginning of the 1,260-day period, which is described 7 times in Bible prophecy as being the length of the end times period and the Antichrist's rule. And I believe on this day, the symbolic sign will be the death of President Trump from a heart attack. It will be the last Trump sign, which will be hinting at the last Trump sound before the Hebrews departed camp at Mount Sinai with the last trump. And this day, May 1st, May 2nd, will be IR 20 in the Hebrew calendar, which was the day of this Trump sound and the Hebrews departing camp and going off into the wilderness in the Old Testament. All right, now going back to the diagram here, 47 weeks back gets us another Nashville sign, and then another 47 months back from that gets us to June 2nd, 2016, and another Nashville sign. On this day, it was the Blue Angels ceremonial jet that are never supposed to crashed in Nashville, killing its pilot, and it was number 6 in its squad. And this was also the same day that the Thunderbird's jet, number 6 in its squad, crashed, which also isn't supposed to crash, immediately after flying over Barack Obama while he delivered his commencement speech to the Air Force in Colorado Springs in Colorado. Now, Kamala Harris will die in her Air Force 2 plane, and the Blue Angels jet crashing symbolizes the fallen angels, which is again tying into the Jesus saw Satan falling like lightning from heaven symbolism. But also Colorado is the 38th state, and God is pointing to the 38th president through this, Gerald Ford, who was the only president to have never been elected vice president or president, just like the Antichrist 47th president will be appointed and not be elected. He will be elected vice president and then become president. And this will be how Barack Obama will overcome the 22nd Amendment, which restricts someone from being elected to the office of president more than twice. He will be appointed instead, and he is no stranger for circumventing the Constitution. And that's another story, but that was done when he became president, even though he was born in Kenya. And that isn't a conspiracy theory, by the way. The sheriff from the sixth biggest county in the U.S. hired an independent lab in Europe to conduct a forensic analysis of the digital copy of the birth certificate, which was all that was released, and it was analyzed and concluded a clear forgery, a layered document, a layered digital document. But of course, the national media won't report that, but the local media did. Some local media did report that, including the local media, ABC, NBC, whatever, but the local NBC media reported that in Arizona. Anyway, so there you have it. How Elvis Presley's plane connects with the crash of Kamala Harris's plane. Aliens and UFOs are demons masquerading as aliens and UFOs for the gullible that will believe it because they don't have a solid biblical worldview. Most people's spiritual experiences are demonic deception, especially if they are not a true follower of Christ. The New Age or New Spirituality or Consciousness religion is evil deception from Satan. Satan and demons will give Catholics and New Agers spiritual experiences that they think confirm for them their beliefs, but these spiritual experiences are demonic deception for those that refuse to love the truth and so be saved. There is a spiritual reality behind the material world that we see. The wages for sin is death. Sin means to miss the mark. No one is good, all have sinned. Because of sin, people are captives of the ruler of this world, Satan. People's souls belong to Satan, whose power over people is death. God took the form of a man, Jesus Christ, and paid the ransom that is owed to the ruler of this world. Through Christ's death and resurrection, he defeated sin and he overcame Satan's power in death. It is through Christ and his Spirit that it is possible for everyone to be forgiven of their sin, and we can have eternal life if we choose it. We can choose to follow Jesus out of captivity from sin and Satan. Or we can choose to reject this and remain a slave to this world, sin, and to Satan. If one rejects Jesus Christ, after they die, they will pay the price for their sin in hell, and then they will die the second death, and their soul will cease to exist. Believing in Christ means much more than simple intellectual agreement. It means to repent of sin and completely commit one's life and become a willing slave to Jesus and his kingdom. Jesus said we need to be born again, which implies a death of the self and a death to this world. Believing in Jesus implies living out one's faith through taking action that typically involves risk and sacrifice. This demonstration of faith through action is what it means to have faith and to believe in Jesus. Some Christians will tell you otherwise, but they are deceived and they ignore countless passages in the Bible. Please leave a like and upvote the video, and once this prediction has come to pass, share this video with everyone you know, and more, don't stop sharing it everywhere in social media. It is essential that everyone immediately read the homepage of my website, TrumpPrediction.com. If you are a Christian, once this prediction has come to pass, you should know that you are obligated to share the video that you are currently watching and to share the videos on this channel and to not ever stop sharing this video. The price you must pay for having learned this precious knowledge is to work towards letting others know about this information. And unless you are completely consumed with another ministry or have a health condition, you should know that you are obligated on a daily basis to hand out flyers that promote this video channel on street corners, car windshields, in busy parking lots, in mailboxes, or if anything, as you come across people in your daily life. For example, in the bank or in the aisles of the supermarket as you are shopping. If you are shy, you need to overcome this. Courage isn't a lack of fear, it is action in spite of it. Please contact me for the PDF file for the flyer. The main reason why many people will not agree with this statement that a Christian is obligated to work to get the news out to the world about this prediction is the bad Nicolaitan theology and doctrine that the vast majority of, quote, Christians, unquote, have, which is why the modern church, including and especially the evangelical church, is the lukewarm, stagnant church of Laodicea. And the very purpose of this prediction is to prove to these quote-unquote Christians that they have the Nicolaitan doctrine that Jesus said he hates and is coming to make war on with the sword of his mouth. Most quote-unquote Christians don't fear God, and they don't really get the Bible. And this is the primary reason and purpose for the end times period of the Antichrist. In short, it's time for those that have barely been doing anything for the kingdom to finally make some serious sacrifices that will cost them, and to do some serious work, and to use their bags of gold and produce some fruit before they are thrown into the fire. When this prediction has come to pass, it will be a very, very big bag of gold. I encourage you to use it.